Hey guys, my name's Leanna Rupert. I am an editor over at Game Informer and Game Informer magazine, and today I wanted to talk about 10 common mistakes that games writers make. Now, I wanted to make this because I made a previous video on how to get into the gaming industry, because that's a question I get often on social media, and I used to run a mentorship program. I still kind of do, but I had to slow it down a little bit because it was a little bit too much on top of my current workload, and it was just I was kind of doing it a disservice, because when I do this, I want to give each writer my all, and I don't want them to feel like they're not important or they're not a priority. So I am halting it ish. I'm still working with a few writers, but I'm going to be opening that up hopefully this summer. I'm trying to get everything in working order so I can be a little bit more organized on my side. Also, I have today off, so I look like butt today. I have no makeup on and I look very tired. I haven't even brushed my hair, so just ignore this and I'll be good to go. But I wanted to do this because one thing that kind of spiraled after that one video I made is, a lot of people kind of flocking to it a little bit, which I appreciate, but it kind of made me a little bit aware of some of the mistakes that people make early on, and some of the mistakes people make when they are established and fully, full-time, and this is their dedicated career choice. And this is something that I wanted to talk about too, because it happens to everyone. I have made these mistakes in the past. You will make these mistakes in the future. No one is perfect, and if anybody claims to be perfect, they are lying to you, and you should probably stop taking advice from them because they're not being genuine in their interactions. But this is something that I also wanted to keep myself accountable, and to also give, kind of a guideline of, okay, I'm seeing myself falling into these behaviors. It's time to pivot because this could lead to something bad. But this is something that I want to just be very clear, that no one is perfect. And if they, anybody you're following or you look up to, try to check yourself if you see yourself putting them on a pedestal. We are all human. We are all learning our place in society and the world and in our careers and our industries, and be a little bit compassionate. It costs nothing to be kind. The older I get, the less and less reactive I get. I've been very reactive in the past, and that's something that I've been working really conscientiously to work on. Always be in a state of self-reflection, and that's not just for this video. That's for any aspect of life, religion, just day-to-day, friendships, relationships. If you're not growing, you're not growing. And sometimes that growth is uncomfortable, but it doesn't make it any less important. So that's something I wanted to get out of the way before we dive in. So here are 10 common mistakes that I see games writers make, and that some of these also apply to just daily life. So the first one, cockiness. I see a lot of my peers, myself included. I've had to check my own attitude sometimes, and but I've noticed some of my peers and up-and-comers and long-established journalists kind of get a little bit too cocky, start to think their shit doesn't stink, and start to almost elevate themselves as almost like they're more than human. And that's a little odd. But when you start to get too cocky, what happens then is you're not checking your own behavior. You're not checking yourself. You're so busy checking those around you that you're really disassociated from who you are as a person, and kind of making really dumb mistakes because you think that there's no repercussions. And I have seen people in their careers over this. I have had big names in the industry try to start things with me in the past, and I will do my best to be like, hey, let's take this conversation to DM, because when you do it all publicly, it's not that I'm like, oh, I don't want my name in the public, 'cause I don't care. what happens then when you put it in a public space is that you have now thousands of people weighing in with their opinion who don't know what the fuck is going on. And they know about 2% of the bigger picture, but they're weighing in like they have 100% of the picture. And this includes people in the industry. I have seen, a lot of people, a lot of my friends, a lot of their friends were weighing in as if they know what's going on. They have no idea the previous conversations we've had, interactions between me and the person calling me out. And since then, I'm very happy to say that all of the people that I've talked to, with the exception of one, we're good. We had private conversations. I'm not going to name anybody, but I will say the one person that everybody assumes I'm talking about, we're good. We had a really good conversation, and it meant a lot that we could talk like adults, and, we're good. And they admitted that they were a little too reactive. I admitted that I should have been more clear in what I was saying, and we are all learning. Give yourself permission to stumble sometimes. It's okay. But don't get too cocky. That's a big thing. Don't, keep in mind, yes, your job is cool, but it's a job. It's not who you are. And it's humble yourself. Being humble is good. And that leads me into my second point. So my second mistake is failure to separate yourself. And that's why this is a big deal. And what I mean by failure to separate yourself is, sometimes one aspect of games media that I'm really not comfortable with is a lot of big publications are kind of becoming personal blogs at this point. And I do that myself. Like, you can always tell when I write a BioWare game. You can always tell when I write a Bungie article. You can always tell when I do anything. However, I see a lot of coverage that, because I like this, there's nothing wrong with it. And that is a big no-no. That is a nay-nay. We do not do that in this house. And the reason why that is very important is because I see a lot of articles that are feature-based, and there's nothing wrong with features on website. Let me be very clear. We are all writers. A common misconception from the community is like, oh, this person is a writer, so they have to simultaneously know every single thing about every single thing under the sun and like none of them. We're gamers. At the core, we're gamers. That's why we're in this industry, is we love games. So of course we have those properties that mean the most to us, and we're allowed to do that. That is also why when I write about Mass Effect, or when I write about Dragon Age, or Destiny 2, or Contra, or, the shooter games that I really like, because I love shooters, Halo, is I'm pretty clear, like, just for transparency, this is a series that is very close to me. Does that impact my coverage? No, but I feel like it's important for you to know this, and that's also why I have this channel too, so people kind of know my background and what I love, particularly myself. But that doesn't stop my coverage from being accurate. I love Ubisoft with everything I have, but I was on the front lines with a lot of my fellow raiders covering the Me Too and calling out these people. One of the people that was accused was a very close friend of mine, and when I started seeing those accusations, I called him immediately. I was like, you need to tell me what's going on. And then when I got his side of the story, I was like, you know how this looks. Your side does not match up with what she is saying, and you need to take responsibility for that, because I don't think you're telling me the truth. And after a longer conversation, he finally admitted to me that it was true, and I told him, I was like, I will be writing about this, just so you know. You have to be able to separate yourself. You have to be able to, it's the reason why, despite me loving Dragon Age 2, I reviewed it very poorly. Like, I gave it a very low score, because reviews are a blend of subjectivity, of opinions, because at the end of the day, that's what a review is. It is your personal opinion, but there does have to be an underlining objectivity of there. Okay, I love this, but does that make it good? Dragon Age 2 obviously had a lot of flaws, so I feel like if I would have scored that really high, I would have done whoever read my review a disservice. God, I really should have showered before I did this video. Gross. So yeah, separate yourself. It's okay for you to love what you love. It is. But don't let that hinder you being able to report accurately. Or if you know that you've got a bias that you're not going to be able to shake, own that and work past it. That's why I didn't review Cyberpunk 2077. I was too excited for that before everything went down, And I was very honest with Reiner, like, I don't think I'm the best person to review this game because I'm too excited for it. So be able to do that. Another thing is try not to emulate other writers. There's a difference between being inspired by somebody and then trying to become the person that inspires you. You don't know their process, you don't know their experience. For me, and this is something I have to say all the time to my coworkers, and when I was in leadership positions in the past, I would have to sit down with my writers like, look, I know you see how much I'm writing. Don't burn yourself out trying to match. Because for me, I have worked at places where the required minimum was obscenely, borderline abusive, how much they required you to write a day. But because I've done that for so long, I am now able to do it. It's almost second nature for me. I can write something like it's nothing. And I will see sometimes that it kind of can be like, oh crap, well, do I need to be doing that too? And I'll see writers try to match, but what they don't understand is I worked years under these conditions. So I am conditioned to be able to write fast and a lot. And also I'm prior military where, especially when I was on deployment and I was a part of a fire team, which means, if a fire breaks out on the ship, you are in charge of putting it out with a small other team. So I'm very used to working 40 hours without sleep. Not the average person is not equitable to that. So like sometimes I'll come on at 4 o'clock in the morning because I can't sleep. I'm a very early riser. But then I'll notice a writer try to do that the next day because they feel like they have to. Not that because I'm like, oh, you want to be me. It's not about that. It's you naturally want to kind of match the people around you, but you don't have their background. So when you do that, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be burning yourself out and you're going to be pushing yourself farther than you need to. And that's ultimately going to make you not happy in the position you're in. It's going to damage the quality of your writing. It's going to damage your passion for it. And it's just, you're becoming something you're not. Be true to yourself. If your writing style is different than other people's, I love to add humor to all of my pieces. That's my thing. Don't force humor if that's not your natural writing style. At the same time, you have these isms that are about you. You have certain stylization choices that just feel natural to you. Hone that. Instead of watering a borrowed garden, water your own. You're worth it. If you're in this space or any space, any community that you've worked hard to be a part of, and know that you got there because of you. So don't let yourself lose that because you feel like you need to match the people around you. We need diverse people. We need people with different viewpoints, different opinions, different loves, passions, different critiques. It all comes together to mean something very beautiful. So don't lose yourself trying to be somebody else because you're great. And you can continue to be great. Continue to evolve. That's what we're here for. So the next other thing is not advocating for yourself. My previous employments will all tell you that I had no problem advocating for myself. If I felt like I deserved a promotion, I will fight tooth and nail for that. When I was in leadership positions and I had writers working underneath me, I would advocate for them. And to the point where one job I actually got into a screaming match, and it's very rare that I get to that point. I'm a very usual chill person. I don't really let my emotions get the best of me most of the time. Of course, we all have those moments, but I found out one of my writers had worked at a property for 5 years and has never received a single raise despite being one of the most irreplaceable people there. Their writing style was incredible, beyond compare. One of the best writers, to this day, one of the best writers I have ever had the pleasure of working with and meeting. And they had a work ethic that was ironclad. They would be wherever you needed them to be at a drop of a hat. And so when I found out they went 5 years without a promotion, it was unacceptable. And I went to the CEO and I said, this is absolutely nothing. And he's like, well, tell me why they deserve this. And I was like, I don't need to. You bring them up all the time of how paramount they are to this company. You already know. The fact that you're not giving this person a raise is selfish at this point, especially when you're giving yourselves bonuses. And it got to a screaming match. And at the end of the match, and the end of the conversation, when it was still not a solidified thing, they were getting a raise, I took a pay cut. I took a $10,000 pay cut. I was like, okay, well, now you don't have the excuse that you don't have the budget. I wanted to see that money allocated to them, and they were able to get their raise, and it was great. But they never advocated for themselves. in that 5 years, they never asked for a raise. Companies don't want to give you more money. Nobody wants to give money of their own volition. So you have to advocate for yourself, advocate for opportunities, advocate for your passion. If you know you're the perfect for something, words, perfect person for something, advocate for that. However, advocate for that in a way that doesn't step on the people around you, because that's a very fine line. You don't want to be me, and then your rest of your team is like, well, but what about me? So just balance, but don't be afraid to speak up for yourself, because you got to look out for yourself too. You can look out for other people at the same time. It's not mutually exclusive, but don't forget to also sometimes be like, you know what? I have some needs that need to be met too. Another mistake, and this is especially true for writers starting out, staying in toxic work environments. There are a lot of properties, and I have worked for many, that will tell you you are nothing without them. This opportunity here is a once in a lifetime, and you will never find anything like that. So you have to take the abuse we give you. I worked at a property that is one of the biggest in the world, and the working conditions were abusive. I worked probably close to 8 months without a single day off. I had to work from funerals. I had to work from the hospital when I had a seizure. And they literally, when I told them, actually, I wasn't even the one that told them. My husband called them saying, hey, she's in the hospital right now. She had a really bad seizure. And they said, if she doesn't get that piece we assigned to her out the next hour, she's gone. And so I literally had to get my sister-in-law to go and get my laptop from the house and bring it to me to the hospital. And when I finally reached my breaking point and I put in my 2 weeks notice, I was out, begging for promotions, begging for raises. Like, I don't mind working a lot, but I need to be compensated for that. And I was always told that, well, that's not possible this time. But suddenly when I was leaving, all of this stuff, all of the things I was asking for a year are suddenly available. And I was like, no, I still need to leave. And then they told me, you're stupid for leaving this. You'll be nothing without us. If you leave this job, you're committing career suicide. And I kind of laugh now, because now I'm in my dream job. It's always been my dream to work at Game Informer, and now I am, and I'm with a good team, and Reiner is an excellent leader, and they really take care of us. And I'm at a place where I've been wanting to be for a long time, and I wouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the courage to leave. And let me be very clear, it was one of the scariest things I've ever done. It's scary to make those big decisions. It's scary to leave a sure thing. It's scary. I didn't eat that week. I didn't sleep that week. My nerves, I was throwing up all the time because I was so nervous. And I still did it. And I'm really proud of that, because that was this very scary decision to make. And I had a lot of risk involved, because I didn't immediately go to Game Informer. I went someplace else first. And that was a big risky move, because I left to go to a startup company, and that's always a risky move. And now I'm where I want to be, and it's good. And I wouldn't be there if I didn't have the courage to leave a toxic work environment. So trust your instincts and trust what you deserve. Another thing, another point is don't ignore certain aspects of the industry. If you want to be the very best writer you can be, you can have your specializations. Like everybody, I have a mod vertical because I make mods, I use them, I know them. You can still write the things you want to write, but you would be doing yourself a disservice if you ignored pivotal aspects of a community. Like right now, esports are huge. When I realized that esports were going to be a lot bigger than I thought they were going to be, I took a year off to specifically work at esports-oriented websites and properties, including Twin Galaxies, so I could have the resources I needed to learn that aspect of the community, of the industry, inside out, because it is so interconnected to everything now. Like, esports are an official marketing arm. You've got your influencers, your content creators, you've got game events centered around that, you've got games being created specifically with that purpose, like Valorant from Riot Games. Do not ignore a facet of the industry just because you don't feel like it interests you. You don't have to dedicate all of your livelihood to it, but don't ignore it. This is including mobile games. This is including indies. This is including esports. This is including culture pieces. You want to be as knowledgeable as you can, because that's going to also bleed into other aspects of your work that you might not even realize. Now, we're going to be moving away from the more technical side and going into a more personal. Don't fall into a clique. The one thing I cannot stand about this industry is there are these cliques that it reminds me of high school. And in these cliques, these people can do no wrong. There's no accountability. They're also like, if something happens with that person, they are just out for blood and because of that, they're reactive in a way that they're not willing to get the facts before they just go on the attack. And it's vicious and it's hateful and it's hard, because that hate and that viciousness is coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of caring and love, but that doesn't negate the fact that it's hateful. So don't put yourself in a clique where I'm forced to be in a box. Don't do that to yourself, and don't turn away people from your circle because you feel like they're not good enough, or they're not big enough, or they're not into my check boxes of interests. Everybody's human. Everybody, be kind to everyone, be inclusive to everyone, and make your choices because those are the choices you want to make, not because you feel like you have to. Cliques are very dangerous in any industry. You kind of get this blind devotion aspect when you start falling into them, and it's a very dangerous and dark road, and it's a very deep pit that's hard to get out of if you find yourself in one. When I first started my career, I was in I didn't realize it. These are my friends. I love them. And I didn't realize how cliquish we were until somebody on the outside kind of pointed it out. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Okay. And then I started working really hard to broaden my circles a little bit, to be like, there's so much more out. There's so many amazing people out there. I want to get to know all of them. And, that way you're also not limiting yourself in terms of opportunities. You're also not limiting your personal life from being enriched by people that are outside of your normal worldview and give you more perspective and fresh perspectives. And even though sometimes you might not agree with them, that fresh perspective is good. Even if you don't agree, it's giving you another lens to look at something that might actually help impact your current views. It's good. Don't click yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Another one is, and this is arguably one of the biggest ones, is failure to stay in the moment. A big aspect of our industry, especially, but any industry, is burnout. And a big part of burnout is always looking at the next milestone. When your first review goes live, celebrate that. Don't be like, well, I didn't get to review the biggest AAA game out there. It's just an indie title. Who cares? Celebrate it. Celebrate the moment. Don't compete with yourself in a way that your future self is always going to be looming over your present self. You're going to get stuck in this tunnel vision of nothing you do is big enough. You're never going to be big enough. Who cares? Don't approach your work of, I have to be the voice in the industry or I'm nothing. And that's something I fall into too. I never celebrated that I made affiliate on Twitch because it wasn't partner. And I regret doing that because I was really proud of that achievement. And, if I interviewed somebody, well, it wasn't that person, especially earlier in my career, because I kept thinking where I wanted to be. And that's great. Have those goals. But when your goals start overshadowing your daily life and you're never appreciating your steps you're taking, you're missing out on a lot of the joy that this industry can bring. And you're diminishing your hard work. So be in the moment, have your goals, have your ambitions, but don't forget to neglect your present self, because your present self is the self that is feeling and is going to be impacted by that burnout. And your present self deserves happiness and pride and joy. So don't neglect that. You'll get where you want to be in due time. Don't try to rush it, because then you're going to miss out on the journey. And then another mistake that I think is really important is, and this kind of falls into the cockiness, and it falls into another point of just thinking you're God, but refusal to take feedback, ignoring feedback. Here's the thing. Nobody knows everything. And in this job, the scope, this industry is one of the fastest evolving industries out there. What you think you know about a certain game today could be completely different next week. What you know about APA could be completely different next week. APA is constantly evolving. Definitions of words are constantly evolving. Writing styles are evolving. Word counts are evolving. Google algorithms are evolving. So you'll never know everything about your craft. So if you're in an environment where you have an editor or you have some kind of a mentor-mentee relationship, don't take their criticisms and their feedback as insults. Take them for what they are. Tools to make your craft even better. This also applies to everyday life too. If somebody tells you, hey, you're being very judgmental, don't be on the offensive and be like, F you, you're judgmental. No, be like, okay, what am I doing that's giving off that perception? Because maybe you're not being judgmental, but perception is reality. So if somebody's perceiving you that way, look at that. Or if people come to you saying, hey, I don't think what you did here was the right move. Own that, take that feedback and take it for the gift it is, because we're all evolving. I keep saying that, but it's so true. And you need to be okay with being not okay. You need to be okay with being uncomfortable. There's a reason why, the caterpillar to butterfly analogy is so big, because that metamorphosis is painful. Their caterpillar's body is getting ripped apart. But look what happens. Change is uncomfortable. Shifting your entire worldview feels like the world is dropped from beneath your feet. But where you land could be so much better than where you were before. So don't be afraid of that change. Don't fight that process. Allow yourself to be open to critique, both in terms of your craft and in everyday life, but especially your craft, because that's going to give you a stronger portfolio. That's going to give you a stronger body of work. And that's going to eventually make your impact in this industry much stronger, much more stable, and more meaningful. And now my last point, because this video has gotten a little bit longer than I meant to be, which I think you guys are kind of already used to that at this point, is stop treating your reader base like trash, regardless of trolls. So what I mean by this is a big trend in the last year or so is writers being like gamers, capital G T M. And I kind of touched on this on a previous video in terms of like talking about males versus women talking about males talking about women. It's just verbiage is weird. And I get it. It's very tempting to be like, oh my God, I hate gamers. Because let me be very real with you. And if you don't believe me, go look at my Twitter right now, because I literally posted a screenshot of, actually, let me do that right now. I'm gonna read this out to you guys. And this is a type of comment I get daily. Ian Wolf 5150 writes, and this was about a GI show episode that Kim Wallace and I were on. Both the women are insufferable on this show. I can't take it anymore. My ears are fucking bleeding, and the stupidity and ugliness is legit annoying as hell. The cackling, the chatting, squealing, and laughing are nails on a chalkboard, which we weren't even laughing that much. Stop putting morons on these shows. If they are going to be background noise, at least give us something to look at other than the girls that are picked last at the pageant. I get told to die daily. I get gamers correcting me on articles with incorrect information because they refuse to believe that I actually do know what I'm talking about. And so when you get that on a daily basis, it's kind of hard not to get a little bit jaded, but try to check yourself on that, because when you're saying, oh my God, gamers are trash, I hate gamers, da da da, you don't know what fan of your work might be reading that thinking, oh, do they mean me too? Like, you don't know. You just don't know, because sometimes you have, and the argument against that is, well, they should know. If it's not them, then they know they're not guilty. It's like, okay, yes, but sometimes your reader base might be 14, 15 years old, and they don't know that yet. They're still learning how everything works. it kind of goes back to the kindness thing. Is it costs nothing to be kind. Just be aware. Yes, there are really shitty gamers out there. They are shit. I've had to move because it sometimes is bad. The stack of protective orders I have is enormously large. People love to dox. People love to threaten. I've had people stalk me to my hotel rooms when I was at events. I had one person physically assault me because I guess he said hi and I didn't see him because I had my head down. I was working. You know, when a journalist is at an event, it's very chaotic. At E3, it's very common to sleep only 2 to 3 hours because you're back-to-back appointments. So sometimes, you know, things get missed. And he grabbed me and slapped me, calling me a bitch because he took that me not saying hi back as a personal affront. Even still, not all gamers, not all, you know, that's the whole argument. But try to be respectful of your reader base, because without them, you wouldn't be where you are. Those, you know, you wouldn't have a reason to write if there's nobody there to read what you're writing. And just be conscientious of your community. Be aware that some of them are shitty, but please, please, please try not to let that color how you perceive the entire community, and try not to let that color how you talk about the community, because you don't know who you're hurting. You don't. And a lot of people disagree with me on that, and that's okay. That's okay. That's just my personal philosophy on that. Is I try not to unintentionally hurt somebody. But we all misspeak. We all make those missteps, and I'm trying to learn from mine and hopefully impart some of the lessons I've learned through trial and error through my years, and hopefully that helps you guys too. I am not perfect. I will mess up in the future. I will make mistakes, and instead of hiding them and putting them under the rug, I will learn from them. And in turn, I will take those learned lessons and I will try to give them back to people. So maybe I can help somebody else avoid making those mistakes, because they're not fun. They're necessary. Mistakes are necessary, but they're not fun. So that's me. That is 10 common mistakes that games writers make in my personal observations. And I hope that helps you flourish. And if you're not a games writer, a lot of these lessons still apply. I hope it helped. I hope it gave you some insight. Or feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below and tell me I am just completely off my rocker and Leanna, stop talking because you don't know shit about shit. That's cool too. So thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble for another 32 minutes. I apologize. One of these days I'll get a small video. Thank you for putting up with this. Next time I will put on makeup and brush my hair and take a shower and oh girl, I need to get my hair done too. Look at those roots. So thank you guys, and I will catch you guys next time.